This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey gang, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. Lots to get to tonight or today after a disappointing evening at Canada Life Centre for the Winnipeg Jets and their fans. 4-2 loss, which, to be honest, I think flattered the home team, considering what we saw last night on the ice in a game that I was really fired up about, had high expectations for. Found out right before the game that Mark Scheifele would not be going, the latest victim of the flu that's been kind of working its way through the Winnipeg Jet room. And let's just say they missed Mark Scheifele, and it looked like maybe a few other guys were having flu-like symptoms last night because it was not a very good performance top to bottom by the Winnipeg Jets. We'll get to all of that coming up. Ken Wiebe is going to join us a little later on in the program. But as much as it was a downer game last night, we are going to do our part to crank up the energy in this program and get things in a very positive direction. Because before Ken joins us, we're going to welcome in Chris Streveler, who is back with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and back in Winnipeg today. Really looking forward to that. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, big welcome to everyone listening on the pod. Thanks so much for making WST part of your day, and a huge shout out to everyone with us live on YouTube today. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Of course, this show doesn't happen without the incredible support of the Winnipeg Sports Talk family of sponsors. A huge thank you to the great people at Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Little Brown Jug, the Winnipeg Jets, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Aikens Lake, F Apparel, Wallace & Wallace, Canadian Club Whiskey, Modern Man Barbershop, Manitoba Battery, and so great to have Spicy and the boys from Consolidated Supply back on board with us as we get into spring. We will get to a why not question of the day for our friends at Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray as well. But right now we welcome in Michael Remis. Remo, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Yeah, well, I'm feeling good that we got Streveler on the show today, but
needed it.
We needed that type of energy and positivity that he's going to bring to the program. But as far as the Jets, I don't know, doing okay today on a Thursday. It's warming up. It's starting to get closer to the playoffs, but when you get to the playoffs, you want to be playing, playoff style hockey, and the Jets certainly did not do that yesterday against Nashville in a game that was highly anticipated. They had played so well against Washington, who got absolutely smoked last night by Edmonton, but it wasn't a great one. Wasn't a great one last night, Huss. So I don't know if my mood is equal to the Jets' last game. Then not great, but actually, I don't know, doing okay. Warming up.
Thank God for Streveler today. That is definitely what I will say, and I think people are going to. Well, listen, everyone loves Strev, and I have a feeling he's going to join us and be all fired up, and will get us right back in a positive mindset going into more Jets discussion with our pal Ken Wiebe. I have to say, though, I mean, listen, I got to the seat. I was screwing around after the show, doing a couple things. I jumped in an Uber. I got to the game just before the anthems, so I hadn't really been on my phone. And got to give a shout out to Brady, who was sitting beside me. Said, no Scheifele. And I'm like, oh, my God. I mean, and games like that yesterday, I mean, really make you appreciate the importance of Mark Scheifele. Now, I think you could say for most teams, you take out their number one center, they're certainly in a major deficit position. But, I mean, it just seemed like the team was off in the first period is the best way that I can put it. They gave up a ton on the rush last night, and that is not something that, I mean, unfortunately, we've seen it more often in the last 2-3 weeks, a month or so, certainly compared to really anything in the first 50 plus games of the season. So they did get away on their game yesterday, but Remo, it just seemed like these were two teams that came into the game at different energy levels, at different intensity levels. And I give the Nashville Predators a ton of credit. I mean, they worked their way back into the playoff spot. They have not leaned off the gas at all. And they came in and made a statement to themselves, to the Winnipeg Jets, and I think the rest of the Central Division last night, that they are back and they are very much part of this playoff picture.
Yeah, did not see this coming from Nashville. And you look at their roster, they got a really good top line. We saw that yesterday. They got a number one D. Saros wasn't playing that well earlier in the season. He was certainly solid yesterday, but we look at the standings now, and Nashville, they're ahead of Vegas. They're right in there in the wild card huss. 80 points and 67. I mean, they got more points than the Kings, 3 back of Edmonton, although they've played 3 more games. 7 points behind the Jets. They've played 2 more games than the Jets, and a bit behind Colorado and Dallas, but I think they'll be in there in that wild card spot, and hats off to them. For Mark Scheifele, I mean, the late scratch, that's the second late scratch we've had lately. Sean Monahan was scratched just before the Jets' 4-3 overtime win at home against Arizona on the 25th, and that was 2.5 weeks ago. This illness seems to be going around the team. You hope it's done. I don't know how long it takes and how much we can use this as an excuse, but I do know that 2.5 weeks apart, key players are getting late scratched. For them, it must be really bad if Scheifele, took the morning skate. You think he's good to go, and then before the game, late scratch. Same with Monahan. The story was that he had his gear on, and was late scratch. I don't remember this happening in the past. And you talk about energy level. I mean, Nashville came in. Huss, look at their record now. Last 13 games, 11-0-2, and the Jets now 2-3-0 in their last 5. So it was a tough one for the Jets, and I don't know how much can we blame on the flu, or how much can we blame on playing this hot Nashville team.
Well, you know what? I think both probably were a factor last night. Take it from somebody that is still dealing with this flu. The energy levels have been low personally. And again, I'm quite far from any sort of professional athlete. But if what I think a lot of people are dealing with right now is what the Winnipeg Jets are, it can really hit you like a ton of bricks. And I think a lot of guys have been just doing their best to play through it. I'm looking at Running Man, who dropped in the chat, and he said, I have a buddy who works with the Jets medical staff. Flu bug hit the dressing room. That's why Scheif didn't play. 4 guys were on IVs between periods. And listen, I mean, that's an interesting tidbit. Rick Bowness didn't lean on that afterwards. They didn't go to the excuse train afterwards and said that they're all sick. But it would make sense, Remo, because that was for a game that, I mean, I think was important, a big divisional game against a divisional rival. The word lethargic, I think, could aptly describe what we saw from the Winnipeg Jets for most of that 60 minutes.
Yeah, not a lot of scoring chances generated for sure, and a couple defensive miscues early leading to goals against. Roman Josi leading the way for Nashville, finding Gus Nyquist. I mean, an amazing pass, using some geometry there, has bounce off the boards right onto his stick for a breakaway, and that's a shot from distance. Maybe you think Hellebuyck routinely has that one. He didn't. I thought he was excellent there in the second period, stopping all 19 shots. And on the second one, Roman Josi goes in the zone, cuts to the middle. 2 guys go to him and leaves Sherwood wide open in the slot and wires one past Hellebuyck. And once you're down 2-0, the Jets really didn't have a lot of pushback. Huss. Maybe there was a little in the fourth period once they were already down 4-0. Nashville scored the 2 goals early into the third, We thought, okay, let's see some pushback here, as they had comebacks against Carolina, against Buffalo in back-to-back games a couple weeks ago, but it just wasn't there. And credit to Saros in the third period. I mean, Monahan was in front, made an amazing save on him. Alex Iafallo had a breakaway as well, but it was they scored the 4-1 goal, and then 11 seconds left. You put some sugar on it, make it 4-2, but it really wasn't that close.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I kind of mentioned, I think, on another show, it was a little bit, the old putting lipstick on a pig. It made it look a little bit better than the game actually was. Like, the first period, the shots were 10-10. I was surprised at that. It really felt like Nashville was playing. It just felt like the Jets were off. I mean, they weren't managing the puck properly. They were, and I mean, I don't want to say they were careless. Just the execution just simply was not there. Nashville's execution was far, far better than Winnipeg's was, and it led to some pretty good scoring chances for Nashville, including a couple that went in the net. The second period was worse. Nashville pushed 20 shots on that. I think what I'm just looking at, they've got it recorded as 19-7 for Nashville in that second period. And were it not for Connor Hellebuck and two very quality penalty kills by the Jets PK unit, this game would have been over after 20 minutes. What was frustrating to me, and I tweeted it out as much in between periods from the concourse, that the Jets sort of were fortunate to be in this game at 2-0 the way they played in the second period, and was hoping to see some energy, some life from the club coming right out to try to get back into it. And unfortunately, it was the exact opposite thing. 2 early goals by Nashville, jumping all over Winnipeg at the beginning of the third period. And at that point, it was, for all intents and purposes, over.
Yeah, and I think you look throughout the game, they just couldn't find, when they couldn't find their game and you kept shuffling the lines around. I mean, you go on Money Puck, it shows all the different line combinations they use. They started off with Nemesnikov there with Connor Ehlers. They did Connor Monahan to Foley. And then Connor Monahan, Ehlers, I followed Nemesnikov, Ehlers, got a bunch of shifts. I mean, they couldn't really find anything to get going. The one constant was the Appleton, Lowry, Niederreiter line, which has been, lock buttoned since game one. And Appleton had a nice, he had a nice game too. But I think it just shows you Mark Scheifele, how important he is to Appleton. And we talk about MVPs, Hellebuck, Morrissey, Scheifele. I think you can make an argument for either one, but when Mark Scheifele's been out of the lineup this year, it's been tough. And they got Sean. Part of those they didn't have Sean Monahan, but even still, he's a key part of this team, and you need that number one center, and they're certainly in tough without him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when your number one guy's out, guys need to step up, and that just didn't happen last night. I thought Kyle Connor had a dreadful game for the most part. I thought Nikolai Ehlers was not effective at all for at least the first 50 minutes. I mean, listen, as someone that bought a ticket that was there in the rink that night, I appreciated the fact that they didn't quit and they kept on pushing, and it was nice to see Iafallo get them on the board and avoid another shutout. Of course, let's face it, that game felt a lot to a lot of people like the Vancouver game on Saturday, where the Jets just didn't have it. They were a step behind. They weren't doing any of the things that, you would expect from them on a regular basis. Just the relative execution of simple plays and breakouts and passes and whatnot. But, I mean, they did continue to push in the third period, which was great, but it was, as we mentioned, kind of too little, too late. I did like the third line. I thought they had a number of chances early on. Alex Iafallo was working as well, but when guys like 55 are down, I would imagine that is the time when Rick Bowness looks to 27, looks to 81, and says, hey, this is a big opportunity to sort of, you carry it a little bit more today offensively. And as I said, those guys were off, and everything was off last night. Listen, I think the team overall deserves the benefit of the doubt in the big picture. They've won a lot of hockey games. They're still right in the mix with two of the best teams in the league for first in the Central Division. My takeaway, though, Remis, was of great disappointment last night, because we looked at what the schedule was You know Anaheim's coming up. Columbus is coming up. I mean, you expect to win those games. You should win those games. This was the biggest test over a little while, a period, of the hottest team in the league and a team that is significantly, is back in the Central Division. And, I would assume we could probably safely say a number of reasons. It just wasn't the performance that was close up to the Jets standard. What was interesting, though, and we heard from the players, and we'll get to the room in a minute, as well as Bones, they were going to be addressed by their head coach today about that game last night, not last night after the game.
Yeah, we had the Vancouver game on Saturday where he delivered this epic post game where he said it was the worst game, he's seen in 2 years. I don't know where last night's game ranks. Well, I mean, they didn't score a goal in that game, and they managed to score 2 yesterday, so it was probably a better game just by that metric alone. But I was fully expecting, I don't know, actually, I didn't know what to expect. Was Bones going to come out hot again like before, or was he going to play it cool? And he played it, hey, I haven't really talked to them. He said they know, they were in the game. They know what happened there, and I think that's certainly fair. We'll hear from Ken and what happened today, but that was... they asked DeMello, everyone's like, oh, what did Bones say to him? Everyone think he's going to go in and I don't know if he's going to tear him a new one or what. He said, he didn't come in. He's going to talk to us tomorrow. But they know.
Maurice used to do that as well. Maurice used to say after some of the really bad games, you don't want to go in an emotional state and exacerbate problems or make them worse. And that was probably one that everyone could use to sleep on. Like I see Palmerley in 89 says 4-7-1 against teams in playoff position since Christmas. A lot of those losses are of the no-show performances not good. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say a lot of them are no-shows. The Vancouver game on Saturday certainly would be in that category. And this one did feel like it. I think you'd have a tough time going back and putting together a long list of games like this for this team this season. But I'll tell you what, 2, if you want to call last night that same thing, 2 in the last 3, it's either a team that's really dealing with a bunch of things that they haven't been using as excuses, but we're seeing on the ice, like this flu and losing players, or a team that's just really gotten away from where they've been. And what's frustrating about this, Remis, is that game on Monday with the new guys in the lineup against Washington was a very tidy, complete, effective 3-0 win that they hardly gave up anything. And it was just a complete 180 last night when Nashville got there on the puck.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a flip-flopping with the way they play. They were able to find it in that game in Vancouver on February 17th, and they really brought it. That was a playoff-style game. They beat up on Minnesota on the 20th. They're able to find, they squeaked out the wins against Chicago and Arizona, even though they weren't at their best, and then won against St. Louis. But I think since that last week of February, you have, you get blown out by Dallas, and then, just bring up the schedule. Blown up by Dallas. You have the comeback wins, and you think you're building something only to drop one to Seattle, where you played well, but maybe Hellebuyck, I think his expected goal saved above expected was -2 in that one, not his best game. And you play well on the Friday, in Seattle. You think, okay, we're ready to keep it rolling, we're building, and then you go back to the loss and you have a nice win against Washington where you show, hey, you're a playoff team, and they're clearly not. And then you think, okay, they're going to build on that, and you get steamrolled by Nashville. So I'm not sure what to make of the consistency here over the last couple of weeks. And it's starting to feel a lot like, previous years where they get off to this hot start in the first half. Like, I don't want to say it, I don't think it's the same team because you look at the roster and there's a lot of different players, but watching this, you're getting a similar feeling to what you've had in past seasons where they get off to this hot start.
I'll push back at that because, the weekend is St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Like, this is not like before. That was happening in January. It was happening in February. We're right now coming down the stretch, and this team is battling for first place. So I don't know if you can compare it to the second half slumps. I mean, we're now into the final quarter of the schedule. But listen, I'm not disputing the fact that there's been some ugly performances lately, and two of the worst of the season really in this past week. And you certainly don't want that trend developing. Be interesting to hear. Jets are practicing and have been over the last kind of hour or so. So I think later on in the program, we hope to hear from Bones and anybody else that spoke today and have that for you here on TSN or WST. You can tell I'm sick. You can tell I'm sick. I'm still sort of delirious and just fighting through all this.
It's been 3 years still. Sorry, I was laughing.
Today, yeah, I know. Today, though, they did do the team picture. Vlardy and Scheifele were on the ice for the picture but didn't skate. Nemetsnikov also didn't skate. And as far as for what we've got from, it sounds like Gus was a bit of a placeholder for Scheifele. It was Connor, Gustafson, Iafallo, Ehlers, Monahan, Toffoli on line two. I do like that. Like, I was hoping to see a little more of that last night, to be honest. Just, based on everything we talked about, to kind of get, to see what that Ehlers effect would have on Toffoli and his chances. You got Niederreiter, Lowry, and Appleton. And then Barron, Kapari, and Perfetti, all the defense pairings the same. Morrissey, DeMello, Dylan Pioch, Sandberg, Miller, Stanley Schmidt, and, of course, Hellebuck and Brossoit were out there. Just before we hear from Bones and a couple of the players from last night, I want to put out the why not question of the day for not Autocorp, but Waverly McGillivray into the chat. The one thing I'll say, Reem, this was not like Saturday where everybody was terrible. And Rick Bowness said as much. There wasn't one guy that had a good game. I thought there were a few guys that had a good game, but the list was relatively short. Interested in your thoughts on that last night. Hit us up in the chat. I had a lot of time for Morgan Barron's game last night. I thought Nino and Lowry and Appleton certainly had some good shifts and some good moments. There was not a lot going, though, in that top six last night, Remo. And, we saw a bunch of different combinations. Now knowing that Vlad was out, that probably makes a little bit of sense. He didn't seem to be himself. He was working hard. But again, this wasn't as much no showing and not competing at all. It was just being a step behind and not executing anywhere close to the degree that their opponents did.
No, and that was the big thing. I don't know if it's, not completing passes or the puck's bouncing over your stick. That was a big theme in the post game yesterday from DeMello and IFL, that they just didn't execute the game plan. So I'm not sure why that would be, if it was Nashville's relentless forecheck on them, but the Jets really couldn't get much going. And I'll agree, Appleton, he had a lot of chances, and getting one there with at the end. Iafallo, he scored, and he had a breakaway too in the third period. So, but I agree, they needed more from their top six, and they didn't quite get it. And it was, the bottom six in that third line, which might even be the second line, depending on the night. They were doing okay, but didn't really generate a whole lot until you're down 4-0.
The one thing that did happen last night, you mentioned Iafallo scored again. He got to 10 on the season. Appleton got the late one to get to 11. But now we just need to see 2 more goals for Vlad. And then pretty much every single forward will be in double digits. I mean, listen to this. Scheifele 19, Connor 27, Ehlers 19, Nino 18, Perfetti 14, Lowry 10, Vilardi 16, Appleton 10, Iafallo 10, Morgan Barron 10. I'm not sure. I'm sure it's probably happened before, but to have 12 forwards all in double-digit goals, it really does speak to the depth of this club. But it wasn't on the depth. It was top to bottom. Just the team wasn't good enough last night, and I have a feeling we'll probably hear something to that extent from Bones coming up a little later on. Just looking at the chat, there was some likes for some nice complimentary words for Morgan Barron. And Perfetti as well. I mean, listen, it's not going for him right now, but I've seen some positive momentum for him over this last little bit. The fourth line and the third line I thought were the two best lines last night for the Jets, and that's not a good scenario to have happen in an NHL game, considering the amount of money and how much you rely on, players in the top six, even without Mark Scheifele playing last night. But let's get to the room. Bones spoke afterwards, and it was a little different. He wasn't quite as angry as he was Saturday after the Canucks game, but he talked about what was missing from their team's game last night.
A lot. The execution wasn't there. Face-off readiness. They were jumping by us. We were winning draws and getting ourselves in trouble. So the execution just was way off from the start.
Anything stand out about their game? Obviously, they're the hottest team in the NHL right now.
Yeah, give them credit. They played a great game. They came at us, and we know that. We talked about it before the game. They had points in 12 straight games, so we knew what to expect.
How do you get the execution cleaned up at this time of year? Is it just a matter of the games are going to be like that?
Yeah, we need to practice tomorrow. We'll have a good practice tomorrow and start with that.
Monahan to Foley. But here's Bones just on the line swapping that took place last night and his decision to not even talk to the team after last night's game and save it for today.
What do you think of Kyle with Sean and Tyler when you had them there together at times?
Yeah, well, it's hard to judge. I mean, everything was off, so it's hard to judge that.
One of the players was asked sort of what your message was for them after the game. I guess the sense is wasn't a strong game. He said that you hadn't been in there yet.
No, I'll deal with it tomorrow. And sometimes, the players can speak up. It doesn't always have to come from the coach. So, I'll deal with it tomorrow.
Is that an art of coaching thing? You think that they're going to hold each other accountable now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, this group cares. It's a good team. They do care an awful lot. So we are way off tonight. So there's only so much I can go in there and say. But we'll deal with it tomorrow.
Sleep on it, Bones. He slept on it. They're working on a number of things today, and we'll hopefully get a bit of an update on that practice a little later on. As they say, we'll talk about all of this with Ken, who asked that question last night in the post-game scrum. Here's one more from Bones on Hellebuck's play. The Nemetsnikov injury bug and team's inconsistency as of late, kind of looking good one night and not at all good the next.
He was the least of our concerns tonight. He kept it close. He kept us in the game to give us a chance. Yeah. Yeah.
Vladdy went in at one point during the second. Was that injury related or flu related?
No, just injury. He just got banged up a little.
Sorry, I know you weren't the biggest fan of the first Seattle game and then the Vancouver game, and now, and the game sandwiched in between were really good ones. Any ideas what's leading to the kind of flip-flop inconsistency?
Yeah, a little bit.
Anything
not going to share with you.
Fair enough.
Good try. Thanks.
All right. And I don't know. I mean, considering everything we're hearing about the flu, I mean, I think when he says something like that, it seems like he is, but certainly does not want to do. He's in a lot of ways the opposite of Maurice in a lot of ways. Maurice, we always joke, would give us these excuses like the self-fulfilling prophecies before things happen. Oh, this is such a tough schedule. The guys are hurt. They played so much, and it would often manifest it himself. It sounds like Bones doesn't even want to talk about that stuff, even when it might be legitimately contributing to some subpar play by his club.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he was getting at the end there, saying that he knows what it is and didn't want to share. I do enjoy when he gives the nice try, when some of the media members try to get him with, I don't want to call it a gotcha question, but maybe try to get him reveal more than he would like. So We hope that he knows what the issue is and try to find the solution. That's what the motto has been. No excuses, just solutions. And, look, there's still a lot of runway left in the season. There's, as you said, they are still battling for first place, but, the inconsistency here lately, has been a bit of a concern. We just haven't seen that team that was steamrolling other teams earlier on in the season.
No, the steamroller was out last night, but unfortunately they were on the wrong end of it. Here is Dylan DeMello, just on the overall disappointing nature of the game and the team's performance.
They made it really hard on us getting through the neutral zone. Their forecheck was relentless. A lot of credit to them. They're rolling, and they played a great game.
Is this a sizable step forward for them in terms of the amount of time and space they took away from you guys?
For them, like in regards to their team play?
I think so. So, they're one of the hotter teams in the NHL. I'm not sure they started this way.
Yeah, I haven't seen them in a while. Thought they played pretty good when they played us when we were in their building. I think we got exactly what we thought we'd get from them tonight. They're rolling. They're playing well. You can see that they got a lot of confidence, and they know their identity. They played it to a T.
All right, so there's Dylan DeMello. DeMello continued, and this is something I kind of talked about right off the top. It was very clear the team was off last night, and it came down to just simple execution in a lot of ways. Here's DeMello on just the lack of jet-level execution last night against Nashville.
Lack of execution for sure tonight from our group. There was room for plays, and when we weren't making them. And then when there wasn't room for plays, we weren't getting the puck in deep and kind of playing the way the game was being played. We tried to force things when it wasn't there. Not a lot of net front action there until we had a couple of tips. And it just wasn't very clean. Our breakouts could have been cleaner. We iced a lot of pucks. And like you said, just some uncharacteristic things for us. So when we're not executing and they're playing their game to a T, I think that's what you're going to get.
Is there a checklist that you guys need to work through when you work down the stretch here, Dylan, just in terms of being sharp?
Just make sure that our game's in the right spot, make sure our process is right. We'll live with the results. Tonight our process wasn't really good, I think, and I think our execution was the biggest thing for me. I think sometimes you're not going to have your legs or maybe some jam, but for us, there's a lot of things that we can clean up tonight, and I think execution is the biggest thing. Moving our feet a little bit. We looked a little slow at times out there. They were coming behind us and lifting our sticks, and like I said, I thought our breakouts weren't great as a D-core, and we just weren't getting through that neutral zone very well, and didn't have a ton of sustained offense until we're down 4-0. So there's I think the biggest thing, execution, we can clean up for sure, and that'll lead to more speed through the neutral zone, us getting on the forecheck and just playing a lot cleaner.
All right, Jets defenseman Dylan DeMello post-game. And, listen, there's one thing that came through in DeMello's comments. There's not panic, certainly between his ears right now. He had talked about the fact that there is plenty of runway left to find their game. They're in a very good spot. They're in a battle for first right now, and they'll certainly need to play much better than that if they want to stay in that battle. But here's DeMello on the rest of the road before when they really need to be at their best, and that, of course, is Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
At the end of the day, we got a lot of games here. We gotta understand what went wrong and move on. But at the same time, there's so many games we got going on this month that I think at this point in the season, we know what our game looks like. We were confident we can get back to it tonight. We didn't have it, and hats off to Nashville. They did, and they played really well.
All right, so there's Dylan DeMello. Well, one more player who actually did look quite good at times last night. Certainly you're never questioning the heart or the work ethic of Alex Iafallo, and he did give the fans something to cheer about in the third period, breaking that shutout by UC Saros on a very nicely executed tip. But we weren't talking about the goal afterwards. Here was Iafallo on what he felt was missing from the Jets game last night.
I guess our aggressiveness, from the start, we wanted to be, a hard forechecking team, and we weren't getting those chances. So, we got to regroup tomorrow and making sure we have that, hardworking, mental aspect of the game from the start.
They're the hottest team in the NHL. What stood out about their play?
They just felt like they were on us, making plays, just a good connection, making passes, across the ice and stuff like that. So, Next time we play them, we got to make sure that we're crisper and taking away stuff to the middle.
Is there any surprise to how much time and space they were able to take away from you guys?
Oh yeah, I mean, we talked about it before the game. Just trying to create more, I guess, support situations when we get the puck down low, and just going forward, we got to stay on that forecheck and create less time for them, obviously, and just keep pushing.
All right, so there's Alex Iafallo kind of wrapping up last night's disappointing 4-2 loss at home to the Nashville Predators. Jets right back at it tomorrow against the Ducks, and then begin an East Coast road trip with the trip to Columbus Columbus on Sunday before heading to the Big Apple to take on the New York Rangers, Devils, as well as the New York Islanders and Washington Capitals on this upcoming trip. Ken Wiebe will join us in a few minutes. We'll get Ken's thoughts on last night, look ahead to tomorrow as well as the road trip. But coming up in just a minute, the return to WST in Winnipeg of Bomber quarterback Chris Streveler. Well, spring is just about here, gang, and our friends at Consolidated Supply are ready for a very busy spring and summer and the change of the seasons. You know, the gang at Consolidated Supply are the leaders in irrigation systems, artificial turf, and of course, golf carts in Manitoba is the official club car dealer with incredible new and used options for you in regards to golf carts. They've also got other amazing options for your property, including hot tubs and incredible outdoor kitchens. And of course, they're also the leaders in small engine parts and repair. Consolidated Supply has so much waiting for you. Come on down and see them at their beautiful showroom, open to the public at 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out everything Consolidated Supply can do for you online at cte.ca. Our friends at Manitoba Battery are enjoying the beauty of their new location over on Dovercourt Road. It is officially open, and Donnie and his staff welcome you down at the original location at 1026 Logan, but at the new spot at 452 Dovercourt Drive. And as part of the grand opening celebrations, any battery that's normally $60 or more will save you an extra $10 if you pick it up in store. But, of course, you know Manitoba Battery is your local option with the best prices on batteries of all makes, models, shapes, sizes, whatever you need, beating the pants off the big box stores. And, of course, they will deliver to you for free any battery purchase inside the perimeter of Winnipeg over $60. It's just that easy. So head on over to manitobabattery.com or pop by and visit the fellas at the new location, 452 Dovercourt Drive, and of course the original spot at 1026 Logan Avenue. Guys, if you need to get a fresh new look as we head into spring, you know where to do that. Get on over to one of the 8 Modern Man barbershops conveniently located throughout the city of Winnipeg, including their 2 newest standalone locations on Pembina Highway or on Plessis Road. Modern Man barbershops offer a variety of grooming services, including haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. The easiest way to make an appointment and book your look is at modernmanbarber.com. And make sure to give them a follow on Instagram as well at Modern Man Barbershops. And we'd also have a huge thank you to the great people at Canadian Club for their continued support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. And of course, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is the official spirit of the blue and gold. We'll be counting down the days till we're enjoying CC's at the Rum Hut and the Jim Beam Social House and CC's and Gingers at the stands at Princess Auto Stadium. But while we wait for football to return, you're going to always get the great taste of Canadian Club and all their amazing products at your local Manitoba liquor marts. Pop by today and check out the Canadian Club display. And remember, always enjoy responsibly. All right, as I mentioned, Ken Wiebe coming up. We'll get back to the Jets' current predicament, but let's ramp up the positivity and the energy levels in WST and welcome in Blue Bomber quarterback Chris Streveler to the show. Certainly seems like the energy here on Bomber Nation's cranked up a few notches since we got the word that you are back in blue and gold this season. What about for yourself since the announcement was made recently?
It's been crazy, man. It's been such a whirlwind. And, like, the social media stuff, first of all, I got to give my hats off to the Winnipeg social media team. the little fur coat thing with the closet with the coming soon. I mean, that was amazing. And I had so many of my buddies from the NFL and from the States that were like, dude, they're killing the social media game. So that got the people going, and just seeing all the love and support from the fans and, my teammates and stuff like that. It's just been super exciting. But to finally get up here today and be around the people and see fans and see my teammates, and man, it feels real. It feels like home, and I couldn't be more excited to get this thing rolling.
Chris, if you could take us back through last season. You were off. Obviously, you came back, and maybe you can touch on the welcome that you received when you came out mid-season to taking a game and just reconnect with fans. But your thought process as to how realistic it was, or was it a plan of yours at some point to come back to the Bombers, and how it all came together this offseason?
Yeah, it was. Last season was hard for me. I'm not going to lie. It was a hard season, I mean, going into camp and really knowing what you're going to do in the preseason and feeling extremely confident about the opportunity you're going to get and what you're going to put on tape, and then getting injured right away is really hard. And it took me some time to mentally kind of wrap my mind around that. So, that's why it was so great to be able to get up here to Winnipeg during the Banjo Bowl, just to see some fans, feel some support, see my former teammates, and just support those guys. It was extremely exciting. But at the time, it was not a thought in my head that I was going to be coming back here. I thought there was going to be an NFL opportunity coming, and I had a couple of workouts after that didn't really end up amounting to anything. They weren't necessarily real opportunities. So, as things kind of moved along, and I had a workout with Chicago that was specifically disappointing, and from an opportunity standpoint, and that's what really sparked it. And that was really, really late in the NFL season. It was like the last week, and I was like, you know what, man? Unless something real comes down the pipeline in the next week or two, I'm going to really start pursuing the CFL, because I know what I can bring to a team. I know the energy that I can bring to a team and the leadership, and that's what I want to do. And I don't want to just sit here and have that be wasted and think, well, I should have went and played more. I had passion for the game. I had energy, and I just didn't play. I want to pursue that. And so that's when everything kind of got turning, and, but it was great to get up during the Banjo Bowl and just see everyone, and, get around the fans and my teammates, and just, reconnect with those guys. And I'm so glad I did now, because, here I am again, and I saw those guys not that long ago.
It's funny hearing you say that, because obviously on this program and with amongst Bomber fans, everyone's been following what you've been doing in the National Football League. And you had that incredible preseason with the Jets, and people were, listen, you made a very good case to get in and play a little bit more. But as it happens at the highest level, sometimes those opportunities aren't always there. And I remember a number of conversations on this program, and maybe it was somewhat wishful thinking, but Chris Streveler will hopefully at some point be back here because he loves to play. And for you, I imagine getting on the field and being a significant part of an offense again, never mind in a place that you love with people that you love, I'm sure was right at the top of the list when you ended up coming to this decision.
Well, I just love that, that's my brand, and that's what people think about me, is that I love to play the game, and I play it with energy and excitement, because that's what I am. And so I love that people can see that and feel that when I play the game, because that's what I try to bring to a team. And I am excited to play. I'm excited to get on the field, but I'm excited to just win games, man. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to help this team do. And that's what's the biggest priority to me. So many people are trying to ask me about, what's your role going to be? What's this? What's that? I don't really care. I'm just excited to be on a team that appreciates me, is excited to have me, and that I can help win games, whatever that looks like. So that's what I'm excited about, man. And it's very exciting.
Just speaking of roles and whatnot, obviously Zach Collaros is here. We all know about Zach. Maybe if you can't touch on your relationship with Zach for a moment, and as well as do conversations with Buck Pierce, because it is a little different right now. There's a few more things open to offensive coordinators when it comes to quarterback personnel on the field going into this season.
Yeah, obviously I know Zach. We played together, had that run in 2019, and he's done such a tremendous job since then. I saw him when I came up here for Banjo Bowl, shot him a message, when I signed here. And so we've been in contact for sure. And I'm excited to, see him even more once camp gets rolling and really reconnect with him. Sent a message to Buck this morning, like, hey man, I'm in the facility. I'd love to pop by. So I think once we wrap up everything with the media here and I get my workout in, I'm going to pop into his office and chop it up with him a little bit. But yeah, we got a lot of weapons on this team. I could go down the list of guys that we need to get the ball to. And so, it's exciting. It's a great problem to have is, how am I going to get the ball to all these great players that, keep coming back to this team? And so it's exciting. It's a great problem to have. And I'm excited to see how this offense unfolds throughout camp because so many people are trying to speculate, oh, what does it look like? Well, you don't really know until you get on the field in camp and start running plays and figure out what you guys are good at and what looks good. It changes on a year-to-year basis. And, that's what they've done such a good job of is tailoring this offense to the guys that are in the building and what they do well. And I know that we're going to continue to do that this year.
Chris Streveler's with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk, back in blue and gold. I want to quickly ask you, though, about the time in the National Football League. I mean, get him into a playoff game with the Cardinals. And, I mean, speak to, if you could, that preseason you had with the Jets because, I mean, week after week after week, you were going in there late, you were winning a football game. And, I mean, just the scenes, preseason scenes inside that locker room, it seemed like, frankly, it reminded me of how much you were loved in the Winnipeg Blue Bomber locker room and that Jet locker room before the season even got going.
I think it was a crazy preseason, man, because I got there and, I didn't get any reps the first 2.5, 3 weeks of camp. I had not taken a rep. And so when I went into the first game, I swear half the team was like, what's this dude's name? I'd never even seen this guy play. And then one thing leads to another, end up throwing a game-winning touchdown, and we win. And then we get in the locker room, and Sal was like going through a speech. He's like, how about Streveler? And I feel like half the team was like, yeah, how about this guy? We don't even know what this dude's about. Like, he just did that. And so it kind of just became this thing throughout the preseason where the next week, fourth quarter comeback, we end up winning that game. And then, same thing. And then the next week, it like almost became a joke. Like I'm going on the field with a minute 30 left, and the OC in my ears like, all right, buddy, let's just go do it again. And then we did it again. And then the same thing in the locker room, like, Streveler, and, to be embraced by a team like that who you come in as a guy that dudes don't even know your name in the first preseason. And then they watch you play the game and watch the way you carry yourself on a day-to-day basis, even though you're not getting reps, even though it's frustrating. They to see a team like that, like just get behind me and what I'm about and the way that I carry myself and play the game, it was like very validating of the way that, just keep working hard and just stay consistent. And those opportunities will come and you'll be ready. And, I ended up getting cut after that preseason. Like people forget that. Like Sala is talking about, one of the best preseasons you've ever seen. I got the call 23 hours later. Yo, bring your iPad in and your stuff's in a garbage bag waiting for you, so that, and I ended up getting back on the preseason, on the practice squad after that. But like people forget that was just another adversity that I had to go through of, man, I did everything I could and it still didn't happen. And that's why I'm here today with the mindset that I have because of all of those things I've been through, being cut 5 times, having a great preseason, still getting cut, all of these things that I've been through, it's created a very strong mindset. And again, just a passion for this game that is hard to put into words.
Well, I mean, listen, we remember it well because we were following it. I mean, everyone was here pulling for you. I mean, if you weren't going to be a Bomber, I mean, let's see the guy go out and make it happen and earn a spot in the National Football League. And to be honest, I mean, it was depressing from a fan standpoint. You could maybe speak to it as well. I mean, what more could you have done in your opportunity to get a spot on that roster? I don't think anything, and yet sometimes it's just not in the cards.
But you know what? That's what gives me peace. That's what gives me peace. I prepared as hard as I could every day. I did the most I could with that opportunity at the time. I can hang my head. I can hold my head high. There's no reason to hang my head after that. So I knew I did everything I could, and I can sleep at night knowing that I worked as hard as I could. And, the other thing you touched on is, the people in Winnipeg, and I just have to give a shout out to those people and people like yourself and the fans of, like, I have felt that support from you guys through these past 5 years. And that's a big reason why when people ask me, what's Winnipeg like what that place is about? I'm like, it's the best people you're going to meet. These people will ride with you, and they want to see people that have ties to Winnipeg or are from Winnipeg go and do big things, and they will ride with you and support you through all of that. And so that's the love that I felt from these people. That's part of the reason why I wanted to come back in Banjo Bowl, as I hadn't been back since the Grey Cup parade, and I wanted to show those people some appreciation and love. And it just so happened that now I'm back here for a full season, and we get to be on this journey together again.
What was that Banjo Bowl weekend like? Because, I mean, honestly, it was like returning son of the city. I mean, hero. It seemed like you were pretty busy for a few days, but you mentioned feeling the love. I don't think there could have been a possible way to express more to you when you came back.
Yeah, I wanted to be busy. Like I told everyone when I'm coming back, like, yo, get me events, get me around the fans as much as I can. Like, obviously, I'm coming to support my teammates and see those guys, but they're preparing. Like during, Friday, leading up, like they're preparing for the game, so I'm not going to bother them. I'll see them after the game once they handle business. But while I'm here, like they're preparing, like, let me go get around the fans and show them love and thank them for their support, because it does not go unnoticed, and it's something that has been extremely important to me on this journey.
Chris, there's been a lot of continuity on the on this roster. Since you left after the Grey Cup championship and now back. When you signed the deal, did the phone blow up with some familiar faces from that Bomber locker room? What was it like amongst your teammates and former teammates, knowing that you were coming back to the Peg?
Yeah, it was really exciting, and like even just now, I walk in the weight room and there goes Dembski, Kenny, and Willie, right? It's like three guys that I love and that we know. And so like the amount of dudes that are still here, and we might, hairline might be going back a little bit. We might have a little touch of gray in the beard, but we're still the same guys, man. We still got love for each other, and we still want to win football games and know how to win football games. And so it's exciting. And that's a big reason why I'm here. Like, I know what this culture is about. I know the culture that the coaching staff has built in the front office and all those guys. And I know what these guys in the locker room are about, most importantly. I know what they stand for. I know what the leadership looks like, and I know how I can fit in with that. And so that is so important to me. And I believe that, the culture and the people that you have in a building is just as important as the players, in terms of how do you win championships. The way that people carry themselves on a day-to-day basis, players, personnel, staff, coaches, I think that's just as important. And I know what the people in this building are about.
Speaking of that culture, I mean, it is a championship culture that has been kind of developed since you were here. I have to ask you about Mike O'Shea and, the type of coach he is. And as a player, your level of excitement to come back and go to battle for Coach O'Shea and his staff.
Yeah, I don't think I could have a higher level of respect for a head coach. A man that's played this game at the highest level, man, played in the CFL for 20 years, man. So he knows what it takes. He's won championships as a player and a coach. And, the FIFO mentality, that culture that he's built, like that's something I brought down to the NFL, and I tell people about that. And when I tell people about that, they're like, that makes a lot of sense about you. And like, it was very easy for me to buy into this culture from day one and what that whole thing's about. And, I can't say enough about, the person that he is, the way he runs this organization, and the culture that he instills, because it's about the team. It's about honoring your teammates. And that's what I'm about, man. I play the game for my teammates. I play the game hard because I want to win games and I want to honor the person next to me. It has nothing to do with myself and any personal accolades or anything like that. It has everything to do with trying to win championships and honoring my brother who's putting his body on the line for me. And that's why I play the game the way that I do. That's why I play as hard as I do, because if I see somebody next to me putting their body on the line, I got to do the same thing. And so I know he understands that about me and he respects that. And I couldn't be more excited to be playing for a guy like that.
Chris, as far as this offseason went, we knew that it was going to be tough for Kyle Walters. I mean, when you win as consistently as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have, there's a lot of guys who are having short careers that deserve raises. And there were some tough decisions to be made. For yourself coming back, was it Winnipeg or nothing? Was it easy to come back to Winnipeg? Did you consider other spots in the league? Fill us in on that, or were you always focused on coming back and being a Blue Bomber again?
I mean, I think it's well documented that I definitely did talk to other teams and I kicked the tires on that. But I think all those teams will probably tell you the same thing, that they know that Winnipeg has a special place in my heart. And so, I definitely did my due diligence to see what opportunities were out there, because when you're acting as your own agent and you're doing that yourself, you would be negligent if you didn't do that. But thankfully, I have a lot of good relationships with people in this building, Darren Cameron being one of them, someone that I'm good friends with and that we've kept a good relationship through the years. So it was really easy to get back in touch with him and just say like, hey man, I'm thinking about doing this. Like, let's start talking. And so we text and talk on the phone regularly regardless. So when it kind of became business time, we're like, all right, let's flip the switch a little bit and get into business mode and start talking about what this looks like and kind of put that friendship to the side for the minute while we get through this deal. And then once, we were able to kind of get on the same page and figure out that it was going to be possible, it really was Winnipeg and just figuring out, okay, let's figure something out that makes sense for both of us. And we ended up doing that. And I think both sides came away really excited and happy.
Chris, we can feel the energy. The fans can feel the energy and cannot wait to get back out to the newly named Princess Auto Stadium and see you and the fellas get it done. But you bring the energy every single day. I was talking to DC. We were hoping to get you on. Oh, he's in Australia. He's here, there. Fill us in on just how, like, your off season right now and what's to come, because it seems like you don't have a lot of downtime and a lot of down days before you're back here in Winnipeg.
No, I don't. I'm a busy man, but that's good. Like, I want to be busy. And so, this past month has been a lot of traveling and taking a little bit of a mental break and physical break just to get my body back under me. I've been training so hard since August, waiting for an opportunity. And so, when Drew Wolitarski, Wally, was having his wedding in Australia, I'm like, man, I got enough credit card points to pay for the flight for me and my girl. Let's go out there and see you. So we did that, came back for a little bit. Then I went down to this business conference through this organization called PAC, Pro Athlete Community, and it's all about networking and building connections in the business world to kind of set some foundation for life after football. So I was able to go do that in Miami for a couple days. Then I came back and immediately went down to Tulum with some of my good buddies down there as well. So I've been all over the place. People are calling me Mr. Worldwide. I think I'm the new Pitbull. So, so it's been,
pull it off.
Yeah. Maybe just shave the head a little bit, but it's been good. But other than that, man, it's been super busy. I started the co-founder of a quarterback training company out in Arizona. We've been training quarterbacks both in person and virtually. Actually just locked in my first out-of-state camp in South Dakota, so I'll be hitting that right before I come up for camp here. I got my first investment property in real estate. I've been doing some public speaking gigs, did a little broadcasting work for my alma mater, University of South Dakota. So I got my hands in a lot of pots, and I'm just trying to continue to plant seeds and keep the ball rolling both in football and outside of football. But with that being said, we're couple months out now. So it's time to kind of put all that stuff away and start to really narrow my focus into, okay, let's get back to the main thing of coming to Winnipeg and trying to win a championship. And so that's where my focus is at now. And that's where it's going to continue to be as I lead into camp here.
This has just been awesome, Chris. Well, I guess on the way out, a perfect opportunity to just ask you about your level of excitement to put that blue and gold back on and get in front of those fans at Princess Auto Stadium, and maybe a message to Bomber fans about what you're bringing back to the table in your return.
Well, I think someone needs to go back and listen to this interview and count the amount of times I've said excited. I'm excited, man. And we're going to be doing the little green screen photo shoot stuff tomorrow. I'll get to put the uniform on, man. And I couldn't be more excited to feel that energy. And, to the fans and to anybody, my teammates, what I'm bringing is energy and excitement and passion for the game. And I'm going to be the best version of myself every single day when I step on that field and step in this locker room. And my number one goal is help this team win games. I don't care what I have to do, because that's why I'm here. I'm here to win football games. And they know they're going to get someone that's going to play the game 110% every single snap. I'll put my body on the line, and I will dedicate my life to trying to win football games. And that's what I'm about. And so any fan or any teammate or anybody listening to this, that's the type of player or person you're going to get on a daily basis, someone that gives 110% and does everything they can for the teammates.
Chris, June cannot come soon enough. It's so great to have you back in the Peg. Have a great rest of the offseason. Good luck with everything else outside of football, and we're looking forward to seeing you back at that Princess Auto Stadium in front of Bomber fans coming up very soon.
Oh, yeah, man. Thank you. I can't wait. Let's go.
Big thanks to Little Brown Jug. We'll probably be cracking a few generics after that extended show on Friday. I want to extend a huge thanks to the great people at Princess Auto for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto, proudly founded right here in Winnipeg and committed to Winnipeg with their headquarters, national headquarters right here. Not only supporting Winnipeg Sports Talk, but all of our local teams, including the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, as they welcome fans to Princess Auto Stadium this year to cheer on the blue and gold down at the U of M. Princess Auto, of course, is the place where you'll find the best deals on the most incredible and unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them in store on Panet Road or Portage Avenue West. And you can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. We also want to thank the folks at Wallace & Wallace. Speaking of getting ready for spring, you know Wallace & Wallace are the fencing and overhead door specialist. You'll see their fences and trucks all over the city. And for all of your fencing needs, Wallace & Wallace has you covered. What you might not know is that they're also the overhead door specialist in Winnipeg, with the largest selection in Manitoba as the Clopay dealer here in town. They can also help you, though, with your maintenance, with the crazy weather, getting cold, getting warm again. This is the time to prevent downtime going into the new seasons. Give Wallace & Wallace a call to book your maintenance and inspection service call today for residential and commercial overhead door sales and service. There's only one name or two you need to know. That is Wallace & Wallace. And speaking of the change of the seasons, fellas, I think a lot of you may be looking into the closet and realize it might be time to up that menswear game. Well, whether you need a suit for a particular event or just want to upgrade your workwear and more, F Apparel is the spot. Just an incredible selection of custom menswear waiting for you, starting with suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an amazing selection of menswear accessories. If you are getting married or in a wedding party coming up this summer, make sure to talk to the fellas at F about a 15% discount when the entire wedding party gets your suits at F Apparel. They've also got great deals for high school grads as well, so make sure to talk to the guys at F about that. Pop by and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown. You can also find out more online or make an appointment at F. That's EPHapparel.com. And as we look ahead to spring and summer, I am counting down the days to fishing season. And you know on Winnipeg Sports, when we're talking fishing, we're getting fired up to head back to Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. A one-of-a-kind, incredible fly-in fishing experience right here in Manitoba, where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. And as incredible as the world-class fishing is that awaits guests at Aikens Lake, the hospitality of the Aikens team and the Terrence family is even better. Head on over to aikenslake.com, find out more about everything available at Aikens coming up, and you can contact them as well about pricing and availability options and booking dates for the 2024 fishing season. aikenslake.com online, and make sure to check them out on all their social channels at Aikens Lake. All right, we all needed that, didn't we? Didn't we? The bolt of energy to everybody from Chris Streveler was much needed. That was some great positivity. Cannot wait to see that dude back wearing number 17, trucking dudes at Princess Auto Stadium coming up this season. We're going to get back to the Jets. I'm still trucking through this, and we'll find out from Ken's take as just how bad this flu bug is amongst the Winnipeg Jets, because I know it's taking out a lot of others, myself included. Oh, and speaking of that, I want to give a shout out to our pal Marshall down in SoCal, and particularly to his wife Elena, who's dealing with something right now. I think they're listening to the show from the hospital right now. So best wishes to you, my dear. And everyone else that's a little bit under the weather. One guy, though, that's coming in hot and looking like $1 million US tax-free is our pal Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Sun. Kenneth, welcome. How are you?
It's great to be with you. Winnipeg Sun was 3 jobs ago, though, my man.
Did I just do that again?
You had a little bit of a Freudian slip there.
Listen, man, I got to tell you, I don't know whether it's the scissor that I've been on for the flu.
I'm just teasing. I should have just let it slide. I should have let it slide,
knowing
like my mind is not.
Listen, I can't even blame that I'm discombobulated from the game last night. I think I'm kind of over that. I was all fired up about Strev, but yes. Ace Jets beat guy for the free, along with our pal Mike McIntyre. Ken joins us now. What's up? You just came back from the rink. I mean, we'll get to last night in a minute, but how was? What were the vibes like? Because they seemed to be kind of low last night.
Yeah, Hustle, actually, the energy level and the joy level, as we like to say, was a little bit higher than anticipated, I would say. Based on the effort exerted. I mean, I don't think it was a lack of effort or, respect for the opponent, but they got outplayed and outworked and, out hustled and out muscled the night before. So this is the beauty of hockey, Huss. I mean, yeah, of course, some guys are going to be sour, and they were sour after the game, and Rick Bowness was sour, and that's good. I mean, nobody likes to lose. That's part of what makes good teams good, is that you shouldn't like to lose. It's not a good feeling. But in terms of today, I thought the attitude and the jovialness. This wasn't a team that was laissez-faire out there, nor was it a team like kind of dragging its bottom lip around the ice today. So Rick Bowness was very much in encouraging form. Some of us thought he might be more on the barking side of things, Huss, to be honest, with how inconsistent it has been. But Rick Bowness went with the proverbial patting on the back and trying to get some positive reinforcement to help those charges who have sort of been a little bit one up, one down, one step forward, one step back during this last 5 or 6 game block. So they had the big picture day going into it. So lots of smiles going in. But I thought there was a workmanlike attitude, but Huss, it was more on a positive vibe nature. I mean, this is a 41-win hockey team, so I don't expect them to be acting like they're the Chicago Blackhawks, nor should they be. So I think they're going to be have a very sharpened focus for their meeting with the Anaheim Ducks on Friday, because, quite frankly, up and down is not going to be good enough down the stretch run here and into the playoffs. But at the same time, Huss, teams go through tough patches, and I would say that most people would rather have a tough patch happen in March rather than in the middle of April, when the games really matter, and a 3-game losing streak can be what bounces a team right out of the playoff picture. Now, having said all that, Huss, this team needs to tighten up defensively. That's what their bread and butter is. It's been their foundation all year long. They had a little bit of looseness creep into their game, and some would argue since Christmas time. So it's not just a 4-game sample size here. This is an extended period of time where the Jets have not been at their best. But from having talked to Adam Lowry and Brendan Dillon today, the confidence level is not shaken. This team knows what it looks like when it's playing well, Huss. And right now they haven't been looking like that on a consistent enough basis, especially against teams that are above the playoff line.
Yeah, no, definitely fair. And for me, I mean, I don't know if you caught the show yesterday. I mean, I was so ramped up for this game. We knew what Nashville was bringing in. I mean, they had been the hottest team in the National Hockey League. They all of a sudden were a playoff team that were coming in to sort of make a bit of a statement. And I thought that, building off, like we all know that Vancouver was a double flusher. I mean, that was ugly. The game against the Washington Capitals, well, it seemed like, you brought the new guys in. There was some good energy, and they completely dominated that game. Spencer Carberry, we played it afterwards. Very impressed. The Jets owned that game and owned the puck. It was a complete 180 last night. I mean, certainly in the first couple periods. And that, I think, was a little concerning. It was interesting, though, as you mentioned. I mean, Bones came right out afterwards and said that everyone stunk on Saturday night, and didn't sugarcoat anything. Nobody had a good game. It was a different tack by Bones yesterday, to the point where he said, "I'm not even talking to these guys tonight. We will deal with it tomorrow." Interesting way, and that kind of reminds me more of Paul Maurice back in the days. He would often say that when the really bad games, you don't even want to get in there afterwards in an emotional state. What did you make kind of the different way Bones seemed to handle last night's loss as opposed to what we saw in Vancouver on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's an important part of the, we've talked so much about leadership in the last 2 years, Huss. And so in this situation, you don't want to be cracking the whip all the time, for lack of a better term, right? So you've already kind of taken your team to task, 4 days earlier, I guess, 5 days earlier. So you don't want to be coming back with the next candidate for worst game in the tenure. So within a 1 week period, Huss. And so I love the fact that he, took a deep breath rather than, go into the room and unload. Like, again, it's a different era. Like, you're not going in there, paint on the walls, ripping your team. That doesn't happen very often. It probably still happens once in a while, but it doesn't happen often, nor does it often have the desired results. So a better tact, and this way it's a smart move. But Rick's been around a long time. So if he felt it was important enough that the leaders are the guys that go in the room and say, hey, this is not up to the standard, this is not good enough, That's a smart thing to do, because we've talked about buy-in all year long, Huss. The buy-in has been there, no doubt about it. There's no question. But sometimes when you're being challenged by the guy that you're sitting beside in the room, Huss, or someone that's on your line, or someone that's playing a role on the team, no matter what role that is, it sounds a little bit different, right? And in terms of accountability, this team's been very accountable. They've done a great job of regrouping and bouncing back, but sometimes you need to hear it from your buddy or the guy sitting next to you, and I think that was a smart approach. Now, what I've liked about the last stretch where the Jets have not been as good, it's not just Rick saying one thing and the players not being on the same page or whatever else. You know, Mason Appleton used the word unacceptable on Saturday after the game. And he was right. That effort was unacceptable given the circumstances. Now, again, we know that was the back end of a back-to-back. It wasn't a long flight or anything, but it was an emotional win for them. But they just didn't get up for the next game, and that was a fact. Against Nashville, this is very simple, Huss, and we talk about this all the time, and that's not to say that the Jets weren't motivated to win. But, Huss, there's a different level of urgency when a team is like Nashville, when they are battling for basically the last playoff spot. And that's how we view it from the outside, Huss. I'm here to tell you, the Predators don't think that third place is out of the running for them in the Central Division based on how they've played since a 5-10 start. Ryan O'Reilly told me yesterday morning they're just trying to play as well as they can to see if they can't, get something better than the first or second wild card. So, I mean, again, that sounds like an awfully big hill to overcome. But what? They're 7 points back now? I mean, that's you'd call that striking distance, especially with one more head-to-head game. And Nashville now is 2-1 against the Jets. So I'm not here to tell you the Jets are going to lose their playoff spot, nor do I think that that's going to happen. And they're still right in the battle for first. But again, a team can't afford a late season swoon when another team is the hottest team in the NHL and the gap not to be narrowed. So I actually think in a lot of ways, again, no coach or no fan or no player thinks a loss is going to be something that's a good thing. But the fact, I'm not saying the Jets were on cruise control, Huss, but they've played so well at the beginning that there hasn't been that same sense of urgency. So now that there's 17 games to go, we know what the narrative is. Jets haven't been good enough against the good teams since Christmas time. The numbers say that, and that's accurate. That's not to say that they have played poorly in all those games, but there have been a few themes that have been coming out of those games, Huss, right? And those are the themes that Rick Bowness and the players will be looking to correct down the stretch. Because let's face it, after Anaheim and Columbus, Jets got lots of games against good teams down the stretch. They're going to see the Rangers next week. They're going to see an Islanders team that is in the back in a playoff spot or in the mix for one. Washington still feels they're not out of it. I mean, the Devils feel they're not out of it. They traded for goalies. They're going to see Nashville again. They're going to see Colorado. They're going to see Edmonton. They're going to see Vegas, and they're going to see Dallas again. So, I mean, if the Jets play better against those teams and can, make that record better, then we're going to have a different discussion. If the theme that has been developing continues, well, then there are going to be questions for the Jets to answer come April 20th or whenever date the playoffs begin.
We just sort of mentioned that, it was ugly on Saturday, but they came back with such a strong performance against a Washington team that just seemed to be totally outclassed.
Yeah.
And Nashville, credit to them for flipping the script. I mean, listen, their sticks were everywhere last night. I mean, it seemed like I was just sitting in the building. I don't know if you had that same feeling that there was a million whistles in that game. And I mean, there were so many times they would get the stick on and it's over in the netting and they're dropping the puck again. But from a Jets perspective, they were just off. The execution of simple things that normally are done without even thinking about weren't there. And I mean, to your point, you don't want that to become any sort of a trend. And to their credit, they've had bad games and they've come back with good ones. But the ability to consistently be at a certain level that they really were for more than half the season is where they have to find a way to get back to, never mind over this next week or 2 weeks, but when it counts the most, and that's the end of the season going into the playoffs.
No doubt, Hassan. And so a great example of what you're talking about, the disruptive sticks that the Predators have had throughout the course of the game against Winnipeg on Wednesday night. Neil Pionk looks off his opponent, and he's got Mason Appleton for a backdoor tap that's basically an empty net goal. Except that Philip Forsberg was hustling down the entire ice, and he outstretches his arm with one hand and prevents the shot from even being an attempt. Right? It flipped it, it chipped it over his stick, and it goes into the corner carefully. And people are saying, "Oh, well, Pionk, why didn't he shoot?" Well, no, it's a wide open net, but it just was a great defensive play. It wasn't a fact that Pionk should have shot it himself. I said this last night on the show, Hassan, and I still believe it today. The Predators looked like a desperate team. Andrew Brunette was wearing a relentless hat. That's sort of the theme that the Predators have been going with. They played in a relentless game. The Jets did not have their forecheck. They did not have their legs. Every time they had what looked to be an odd man rush, the back pressure from the Predators totally stopped anything from getting going. Jets had no cycle or almost no cycle shifts after the first 6 or 7 minutes, and the Predators imposed their will on the game, and the Jets just never found it. I mean, like you said, the score was flattering to the Jets. That was not a 4-2 hockey game. That was outside of the start where the Jets had a couple of great chances, and Huss, there was one really good chance for, I think it was Lowry or Appleton. I still not one of those two guys. UC Saros never saw it. It hit Nino Niederreiter, kind of went under Saros's arm and headed just wide of the net. So, I mean, they had chances early, but they just didn't sustain any pressure. And that was the concerning part for the Jets in that game. Yeah, they get a couple late ones. Iafallo, nice tip. And Appleton, who was solid again, Huss, going through a really good stretch of hockey for me. And, you've talked a lot this week about the pressure on defense. Mason Appleton has really elevated his game in terms of the offensive side. We know his effort is the same, and he's a good penalty killer, and he, is an effective member of that third line. But, I mean, we talked about internal competition for a long time here, Huss. Mason Appleton's not interested in being on the fourth line. He had to play on the fourth line at times in Seattle. He doesn't want to go back there. If he has to, he will, and he'll do it with maximum effort. But this is a guy who has shown that he wants to be on that third line right wing spot with Adam Lowry and Nino Niederreiter, and now he's been rewarded with a little bit more offensive productivity in the last 5-game stretch here, and he's been dangerous. Tons of scoring chances, and bothers me to no end where people say, "Oh, that guy has no hands or no finish." Give me a break. Does he score all the time? Is he a natural finisher? No, but he's got a lot more skill than most of the people that are saying he has no finishing ability. So again, I understand the frustration from people, Huss, but if you can score double digits of goals in the NHL, you're a pretty darn good player.
I think that frustration is miscast if we're talking about Appleton, especially if we're looking at the last couple of weeks. Now, I mean, listen, there's something to be said about getting yourself into a position where you do have good scoring chances. And we all remember that, not being able to get it up on Demko in Vancouver, and it, going from what could have been 2-1 to very quickly 3-0. I mean, if they just defend a little bit better and don't let that one in, people probably aren't, obsessing over that play. But, going back to the first Seattle game, Appleton has been making some really nice passes. He's so comfortable with those players that he's been playing with all year long. And you know me, I'm a guy that said at the start of the year, I expected by the end of the year, Iafallo to be on that line. And I had always kind of envisioned a Lowry, Iafallo, Niederreiter line that, at least for me on paper, is probably as good of a third line as they've had in a long, long time. But I got to give credit where credit is due. Appleton has been productive, and it hasn't just been in tapping in or banging in a rebound. And obviously the goal last night late didn't mean a whole lot, but he has had some big ones. But he's also now not only playing well as a playmaker. I mean, he set up Neil Pionk. He had those 2 beautiful primary assists with Lowry and Niederreiter last week. But the way that they played, there's also an element of knowing where those other guys are, and if you are wide, getting it to the net so there can be some rebounds and back ends. And listen, if you watched that game last night, Mason Appleton, Adam Lowry, and Nino Niederreiter were the least of the Jets' worries. And I would put the fourth line in there as well. I thought they played strong. I thought Cole Perfetti was pretty good last night. I really liked Morgan Barron's game. where my level of disappointment was, especially in a game without Mark Scheifele, I was really hoping to see 81 and 27. I mean, the other top offensive players on the Winnipeg Jets step their game up in the absence of Mark Scheifele. And we want to talk about guys that were not executing very well. Those guys were at the top of the list.
Yeah, no doubt, Huss. It was a tough go for the top 6 performers, no doubt about it. Quiet, a far too quiet night for all of the guys you mentioned. Connor, 3 shots on goal, 4 attempts. Ehlers only had 1 shot on net, 3 attempts. Toffoli, 1 shot, 2 attempts, but he still had 5 hits. So I like the fact that he got himself involved physically, even though things weren't necessarily happening offensively for the group. Sean Monahan, 22 and a half minutes. He had 3 shots, 4 attempts. But yeah, they're just a couple things. We've been talking about, what might the Jets look like if they flip-flopped Ehlers and Connor? Well, yesterday's not a great barometer on what it might look like. But Rick did go to it. Now, did he go to it because Mark Scheifele wasn't there? Well, sure, that was part of the equation. But you didn't have instant chemistry. And, whether it was Ehlers there or Toffoli there, those guys weren't really going at all. There was no offensive rhythm or sync with them. But again, that doesn't mean they're not going to try it on another occasion. Yesterday was just a great example of how valuable a player and piece Mark Scheifele has been to this group, not just this year, but in previous years, but especially this year, where he's been an absolutely driving force to the entire offense, especially with the forward group. They missed him, and yes, they had guys that are doing their best to step up in his absence, but they just didn't have enough from those guys, Huss, and that's something that too. I don't want to, I don't think it's right to draw too many conclusions from a game like that. We know this is a busy stretch, but at the same time, those are the kind of the players that need to elevate their game in big games. Because, Huss, what happened yesterday? Who are the best players on the ice for the Nashville Predators? Well, I counted Philip Forsberg, Roman Josi, and UC Saros. But then they also got contributions from fourth-line guys like Cole Smith, the Steinbach Pistons graduate from the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, from Michael McCarron. There's Michael McCarron laying out to block a one-timer from Josh Morrissey, with his leg. There's Kiefer Sherwood, extending the lead to 2-0. So, you can't sugarcoat it, Huss. The Jets' best players were outplayed by the Predators' best players yesterday. And if we want to look at some of the other games, like the game against Dallas, or the 3 games against Dallas, especially the most recent one, the Stars' best players outperformed the Jets' best players. So, again, I'm not here to say that the Jets' best players don't show up in big games. That's not accurate. The Jets' best players were their best players in the first win against Vancouver and in the game against Carolina when they rallied. But at the same time, those guys need to be at the top of their game when come playoff time, and that's what the stretch drive is for, to get those guys going.
We kind of been focusing in on the forwards. It was, and in a lot of ways, I think when we watched the first period, you could just sort of see it was one of those nights, particularly for like the Dylan Pionk pairing, and I'm just looking away.
That was a tough go for them.
Listen, Pionk, too many giveaways, and again, this just goes back to execution. And again, we can beat this over the head with it. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't at the level that you need to win against pretty much anybody in the National Hockey League. Never mind a team that's been beaten more opponents than anybody over the course of the last dozen games or so. But as bad as the first period was, and the team found themselves down 2-0, you come back out in the second period, and to me, that was when the game really turned around, Ken. Yeah. It was all Nashville, and credit to the penalty kill, who had 2 big kills, and credit to Hellebuck for keeping it 2-0. As disappointing as that was, getting 2 right by you to start the third period, I think really spoke to just how off the Winnipeg Jets were, because they did have a full opportunity with 20 minutes left, given that they hung in there and were bailed out by goaltending and penalty killing on 19 shots against in that second period, that it was there. And very quickly, the Nashville Predators pretty much ended it early on.
Yeah, the old 22-second bang-bang Dennis Bayak special, pretty much where it was the knockout punch delivered by the visitors. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I agree with you. Didn't love the first goal Hellebuck allowed, but again, that's going to happen on occasion. The guy's been great for the Jets. There's no disputing that. He's still the front runner for the Vezina Trophy. So for everyone just throwing stones and saying, "Oh, Hellebuck's got to be stand on his head every single night," I would say take a deep breath on that front. Has Connor been playing at a Vezina level for the last 7 starts? In one of them, he was, but the team has been leaky in front of him. So I would say the goaltending remains the least of the Jets' concerns. Can Hellebuck play better? Do I expect him to play better? Absolutely, yes. But that's not, to me, an issue for the Jets to worry about during the last quarter of the year here in the last 17 games. And for those who missed it, Laurent Brossoit will start on Friday night, which is what we expected all along. And he'll get a start on the road trip, whether that's against the Islanders or against Washington remains to be seen. We expect Hellebuck to definitely play against the Rangers, and now obviously to play against the Blue Jackets as well. Other than that, we'll sort of see how it unfolds, whether it's the Devils or the back end of that trip against Washington. So anyways, I'm not concerned about that. The defense, they've been good all year, but that was enough. It was a rough go for that pairing. I mean, Neil had 5 giveaways, so that's very uncharacteristic. I know there's a lot of people out here saying on social media that Pionk's struggling. Pionk had his best game of the year on Monday night, Huss. So I don't think it's fair to say that Neil has been struggling. I mean, he literally played his best game the game before that. Incredibly involved, 3 shots on net, 8 attempts, 5 hits, 4 block shots, scored a big goal, beat Max Pacioretty to the punch, beat him to the front of the net and scored. So I'm not there with that. And that pairing, for the most part, has been pretty good for the Winnipeg Jets. Very good, quite frankly. Did they need to be better than they were last night? Sure. But again, I would not put that on an area of concern. Colin Miller found a way to get his first point. I thought he was, efficient again in his role. I've said this plenty of times, and so have you. I thought Nate Schmidt has had a very good year. It's tough circumstance for him, but much like he did early on in the year when Rick played Logan Stanley in back-to-back games, Nate's going to be ready. He had a good attitude around the rink. He's going to be ready when his number's called. We know he's going to get games, whether that's Friday. I mean, based on the pairings, look like they were staying the same today, but we'll see what tomorrow brings. We'll see what Sunday brings. But Miller, I thought, has been come as advertised. Let's see what the wider sample size is, but he's been pretty efficient with the puck. We know he's got a big shot when he can get it off. Good for him. I know you and I have been talking about this privately. I don't see Colin Miller moving into a second role possibility with Brendan Dillon. Neil Pionk is in that role as an established player. Now, could there be shifts here and there? Maybe, but I wouldn't be looking for that if I was someone who is around the Jets a lot. I just don't see that being a priority for the Jets. But again, it's up to Miller to establish himself that can be his job. And Nate Schmidt, when he gets his chance, he wants to remind the coaches what kind of year that he had. I mean, that's where they're at. I mean, this is part of the game, Huss. That's a very, uncomfortable is not the right word, but I mean, Nate's the guy who knows Colin Miller the best. And, now he was basically brought in to certainly share the job or push him for the job. And in the early going, he's been thrown right in there and not been given the job, but been given the opportunity to take the job. But I mean, that's part of pro sports. So those two guys are, they're good friends and they'll continue to be. But it's just one of those things that you don't really think about the human side of it, Huss. It's got to be something that's a tough thing to go through. But at the same time, again, I think that the Jets are in a good place. Do they need to be better? Absolutely, yes. I don't see the cracks in the foundation being something that they've folded down the stretch before. They're going to do it again. I just don't see it that way, Huss. I think that this roster has turned over a lot. There are a lot of good leaders in that room. There's lots of people in the core that have been through it before, of course. But there's also a bunch of guys they brought in, whether that's Tyler Toffoli, Stanley Cup champion, Sean Monahan, guys like Iafallo, Velarde, Kupari, guys that have played in important playoff games against Edmonton in each of the last 2 seasons, guys like Niederreiter, the guy's been in the play. He's lived in the playoffs in his NHL career and been involved and gotten the job done. Vladislav Nemesnikov has been around a culture where championships were won. So I don't see them falling off a cliff down the stretch here. But at the same time, there's certainly room for improvement. And that's what they're going to spend these next 17 games sorting out, Huss. I mean, that's basically where they're at.
Yeah, and I mean, it changes game to game, which is sort of speaking to how, it looks really ugly, then really good. Last night, not so good. You're going to need to get to a place where they're consistently bringing a heck of a lot more on a regular basis, because this team's going to be a playoff team. We know that. But if they want to compete and give themselves a chance to, the first round's going to be hellacious in most of the series.
Great word.
Nothing is going to be given, even for the teams that are ahead in the standings that have home ice. And I would say that even for the teams that finish 1 and 2, assuming one of their opponents is those Nashville Predators with a world-class goalie like UC Saros and a world-class number 1 defenseman like Roman Josi, and the additions that they've made to it. All that being said, though, Ken, as we move into these next couple of games, there's some question over, you can maybe touch on Gabriel Velarde in a minute and the level of concern of where he is at. But I'll ask you about this flu. And I know Bones, really from day one, has said, we're not making any excuses. But he was asked by Rennie yesterday, any thoughts on, why this has been popping up? And he said, yeah, but I don't want to mention it. It was hard not to think that he might be talking about, this illness that's been dealing with a whole bunch of players. I mean, because at times the teams looked a little lethargic, like they've been dealing with it. Now, you're around the team. I mean, how concerning is it? Are they handling it properly? And is this something that's going to continue to be an issue going forward? Because I can tell you, as someone that has had it and still is trying to get over it, it's not fun, and I certainly don't have the energy level that I normally have, never mind what you'd need to play in a National Hockey League game.
Yeah, that's a quick thing. I mean, I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. And in terms of how they're handling it, I mean, I don't think there's a playbook for, again, I don't know what the actual virus is. We know that a bunch of teams, this isn't just a Jets problem. It's a league-wide problem. There's tons of teams going through this. So I have no, concern with how it's being handled. I just think that for some guys, it's a 12-hour flu, and for others, it's a lingering issue.
Yeah.
In terms of Rick's comment, my interpretation is not the same as yours. I mean, I'm with you. I understand why people would go there. To me, Rick's issue is not with the flu and not wanting to make excuses. It's about the puck management and some of the decisions that are being made on the ice with the puck. And that's why he doesn't really want to break down the X's and O's of it. I don't think that it's related to the, solutions.
I guess I'm just speculating
not
that these guys are off and they're not themselves, and that's leading to that, because you're exactly right. I mean, it can be for a variety of reasons. When you execute, or the lack thereof in execution yesterday, you're not winning very often in the NHL, and it was just so off from where it was just 48 hours earlier.
For sure, and I understand, and I also understand why a lot of people on both your show and ours were speculating about Hellebuyck must be still dealing with the flu. That's why he didn't have as strong a game in Vancouver or last night. I mean, just from casual conversation, Huss, I was talking with Connor Hellebuyck on Friday after the deadline when he wasn't starting, and he said he felt 100% fine. It was a 12-hour thing for him. Now, that's not to say he doesn't have lingering effects. I don't know what those 12 hours are like. I would imagine they were uncomfortable. And we also heard how Brendan Dillon talked about how uncomfortable it was with the sickness. And again, Mark Scheifele, there's no way and where that he was not interested in playing the game last night. So the fact that he was unable to get suited up would tell you that it was serious. So I just think that there's a few things have crept into the Jets game, and I think that Rick just wants to clean them up, and he doesn't want to get into a public discussion or debate over how that should be done. I think those conversations are happening privately. So, I mean, again, we're all going to make our own assessments or try to read the tea leaves or read between the lines. That's part of our jobs. But, sometimes, hopefully more often than not, we're going to be right. But at some point, Rick will share those things, or else he won't. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. To me, it's more related to execution. I think Dylan DeMello hit the nail on the head after the game. When the Jets are executing and playing their game, they know what they look like. They're playing fast. In the games that they haven't played well against really good teams, they've looked slow. And we know that the Jets are not a slow team. They're a up-tempo, pressure, aggressive team. some of those things that were looking are coming so naturally to them, Huss, at the beginning of the year, and not even just the beginning, like through 40 games. They're not happening as often as they were previously. Now it's about sharpening up, and Paul Maurice used to say it all the time. They know what they look like when they're playing well, and the Jets know exactly what they look like when they're playing well, and they just haven't been looking like that on enough nights. The nights when they've done it, they've been dominant. Like, they made Washington look like Nashville made Winnipeg look, right? I mean, it was just a complete turning of the tables, and that's going to happen. It's happening. Like, look what happened this week around the NHL. Dallas blew a big lead to Florida, where they were in complete control of the game. And last night, the Vancouver Canucks coughed up a 3-0 lead and lost in overtime to the Colorado Avalanche. So, again, there are a lot of good teams and really good teams that are going through some rough patches. Winnipeg is one of those teams right now. Vegas lost 9 of 11, Huss, and they're still one of the most dangerous teams in the NHL. And they had a crazy rally against the Seattle team that is battling for the outstretches of the playoffs. They gave up a goal with the net empty, and then after a crazy back and forth, Vegas found a way to get the extra point when Jack Eichel scored his 200th NHL goal. So, I mean, this is sort of the way it works. We're constantly reminded, Huss, and this happens too. I mean, this happens in the NFL. This happens in every single league. There are going to be lulls for every team. How you come out of those lulls is going to be what, defines a team's season. And that's why this next stretch of games is so important for the Jets. They can't choose who they're playing on the schedule. They're playing a Ducks team that's going to be tired. They're playing tonight in Mini. So, I mean, again, they're going to be a tired team on Friday night, but they're still going to be giving effort. They got a bunch of young kids and guys trying to establish themselves as NHLers and try to get to the point where they're not satisfied with losing. Then they're going to play a Columbus team that has nothing to play for other than pride. So you got to find a way to get yourself up for those games if you're the Jets, and start getting, drilling down on the process of being a really good team. Because again, the formula to peaking at the right time is a very difficult thing to find. Rick Bowness said it again today. Every single coach in every single league wants their team playing their absolute best as you get ready for game 1 of the playoffs. But you're also not expecting the Jets or any other team to go into cruise control mode for the next 17 games. I don't see that happening for them. But again, it's the time of year where you got to be playing your best. And right now they're not doing that. But there are reasons for that. Like you said, the flu would be a part of the explanation. But again, the Jets have prided themselves on solutions, not excuses. So now it's up to them to sort of take their game to the next level, because teams around them are doing just that. So if you don't want to be left behind, you got to elevate your game. It's like that every year.
I mean, playing yesterday, like, we can say what we want about the Ducks and about the Blue Jackets. I mean, executing the way they did yesterday isn't going to cut it against any NHL
team.
opponent.
Nope.
Hey,
Bang
before we go, listen, this is perfect to have you in here today. We had the double shot of energy and positivity. We had Streveler. Now we've got Ken. Todd Stiles in chat has this one for us, Ken. Can anyone honestly imagine a scenario where the Jets win a first-round series against the Stars, the Avs, the Knights, or even now the Predators? This is an honest question. I really want to feel better. I can certainly imagine many scenarios where that happens, but I'll allow you to take that one before we run.
Yeah, I mean, is it a guarantee the Jets get out of the first round? No,
there's
no guarantee any team gets out. No,
rounds?
exactly. But what I would say, the Jets have shown, like, they've earned enough benefit of the doubt, Huss. So, Todd, the reason why the Jets can win, they have the best goaltending tandem in the NHL in Connor Hellebuyck and Laurent Brossoit. Connor Hellebuyck is going to finish Huss somewhere in the neighborhood of 57 to 59 starts, probably at 58, depending on how the next stretch goes. They have as good fourth line depth as they have ever had. They have a couple of players that are absolutely elite at their positions. They added at the deadline important pieces that are already looking like they're fitting in well. And they have a defense core that, while unheralded, has had a very good year, Huss. I mean, Those are the reasons why. And the other reason is that their power play, even though Gabriel Velarde is out, and as you mentioned, I should quickly say, Rick Bowness ruled him out for Friday's game, which is no surprise. Hasn't been skating, but he has been working out off the ice. We're not sure if he's going to travel with the team or not. Rick said he'd have a better idea on Friday. Having said that, Tyler Toffoli will help the Jets' power play. Penalty kill is shown some signs of life as well. Sean Monahan has obviously helped in the face-off circle, among other areas. So they have enough offensive punt. And Huss, they've got now with Iafallo scoring on Wednesday, Huss, Alex Iafallo makes it 12 forwards in the lineup in double digits in goals. I understand Tyler Toffoli had all 26 of his goals with the New Jersey Devils, but when every single member of the lineup, including a guy like Cole Perfetti, who is fighting to remain in the lineup, when 12 guys have double digits in goals, if one line goes dry, there's still 3 other lines contributing. If 2 lines go dry, there's still 2 lines that can score. So, and then you have to remember the type of season Josh Morrissey's having. Josh can take over a game or a series on his own. There were times during the game yesterday that he was trying to will his team back into it. It didn't lead directly to offense, but it led to opportunity. So the reasons the Jets can win is, Huss, they're a 41-win team with 17 to go. There's every reason to believe they could be a 50-win team. And I don't care who those 50 wins come against. If any team can put up 50 wins in a season or somewhere in that neighborhood, you have the elements to not only be a successful first-round team, but a team that can stack wins and potentially go on a significant run like the one we saw in 2018. I mean, I would say the rosters are still comparable. There's obvious differences, Husson. We've talked about this for months. The Jets don't have a Dustin Byfuglien. They don't have the same physicality on the back end the way that they did with Byfuglien, Trouba, Myers, Sherratt. And, even you can include Josh Morrissey in that. But they do have, guys that have played in big games and on the big stage that have the ability to go on a run. So does that mean they'll go on a one? We don't know. That's the beauty of hockey. But what we know is they have the components that are required to go on a long run. You know this. I talk to people around the league all the time. The Jets are well respected by scouts and people in hockey ops all over the league. This is not a smoke and mirrors situation, and this is not just people in the hometown who get clouded judgment from watching them all the time. The Jets are viewed around the league with great respect. You mentioned Spencer Carberry. There have been tons of coaches who have been very complimentary, and it's not just window dressing or empty calorie kind of words. They're a very good hockey team. Can they be an elite hockey team? That's what we're going to find out. They have the components to become one, but now it's up to them.
Yeah, get back to it tomorrow night against the Ducks, get a good start to the road trip in Columbus, and then get ready to step up a couple weight classes when you head to MSG coming up next week. Wiebe, I will look forward to reading your work and Mike's work. We'll be on the road in the Winnipeg Free Press. Thank you very much for jumping on today, and we'll look forward to a little Friday night, late night with the fellas after the Ducks game over on KNR. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, always great to be with you. Enjoy the rest of the week and feel better, Elena.
Right on. There's our buddy Ken Wiebe. All right, we are going to hear what Bones had to say today. The audio is in. Remis has been cutting it up. Coming up right back in a couple of moments, we will have Rick Bowness from today. And as we get ready for the playoffs and the playoff excitement increases, do not forget, Winnipeg Jet fans, that you can get priority access and count yourself in for the entire 2024 playoffs right now by putting down a deposit on season tickets or ticket packages for the upcoming 2024-2025 season. Head on over to winnipegjets.com/deposit. Full list of the benefits of being a season ticket member or ticket package holder for the upcoming seasons there, map and pricing and more. And if you do it now, you will be in the same seat for all of the whiteouts down at Canada Life Centre, hopefully for a long and very fun playoff run for the Winnipeg Jets. Again, right now, the We're All In campaign continues. It's winnipegjets.com/deposit for more on that. And while speaking of the playoffs, probably a trip down to Royal Sports is going to be necessary as everyone gets their whites ready for the Winnipeg Jets and whoever they're playing come April. There is simply no better sports store anywhere than Royal Sports. And if you're a Winnipeg Jet fan, thousands of pieces of Jets merchandise, white and otherwise, all of the jerseys, and still plenty of time to get your jersey customized with your favorite player, name, number, just in time for the postseason. So much more than just Jets merch as well, though, at Royal. Tons of Bomber gear, Major League Baseball, with Jays starting up right now, NFL and more. The biggest hockey section in town, all of the spring sports loading in by the day, and tons of cool stuff on the Kings skate, snow, and surf side. Pop by and see it for yourself. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway, and make sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And speaking of those playoffs, I mean, if you're not in the building or the team is on the road, you know the best place to get together with your gang to watch the big game is your local Boston Pizza. All the Jets games on the big screen with big sound, not to mention those ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and some great new treats on the BP appetizer menu. There's simply nothing like getting together at your local BP. And if you are staying at home, though, you can get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, I'm particularly looking forward to getting over this flu so I can hopefully enjoy one of those Little Brown Jugs at the games on the weekend. Let's get to the coach, though, because Jets did practice today. They did their pictures and whatnot. Bones said he would speak with the club today. He did so. They actually had a practice, which was much needed with the new players that have joined the fold. But we'll start off with Bones on an update on Scheifele as well as Gabriel Velarde.
Well, we're hoping for Mark, but definitely not for Gabe. So we'll see how Mark feels. He's feeling better today than he did yesterday or last night. He was able to eat today and last night. So, yeah, well, that decision will be made tomorrow morning, but Gabe is out.
How, in terms of the progression of this bug, like, are we close to getting it maybe out of the room entirely? Or
Well, we thought it was gone, and then all of a sudden Mark got it, so obviously not.
Vladdy Nemestikov,
he took a shot off the foot last night, and that's a little sore, so but we expect him to play tomorrow.
Okay. And too early to talk about your goaltending plan here for tomorrow night?
I'll be tomorrow night.
That'll be tomorrow.
Yep.
Oh, how about that? Bones forthcoming with the goaltending decision the day before.
What is that?
Don't get that too often. But anyways, good choice. I think we all knew. I thought LB might play Monday and then maybe against Columbus, but they're going to go with Brossoit tomorrow. He's been brilliant this year as well. And it's nice to see him get those starts and hopefully get those goals down and get the Jets back into number one in goals against. I believe they got passed by the Florida Panthers right now. So they will definitely want to, well, hey, maybe LB can do what he did the last time he was in, which was a very solid goose egg performance. Here's Bones on today's practice, and much of what Ken and I were just talking about, the need and the hope to see a big-time response from his club tomorrow night on home ice.
Yeah, we had a good practice today. The guys came ready to work. It was good tempo. Execution was obviously off last night, so it was much better today. And when you run out of practice time, sometimes you're just going to see it in the game. So with the heavy schedule and the back-to-backs, we kind of lost a couple of days of practice. So you have to take advantage of when you have a day like today, and you have to have a good practice. And we had a good practice.
I know you didn't want to talk about the inconsistencies last night, but how far do you think you've gone to solving it with your work today and behind the scenes?
Well, it starts with that practice. It starts with addressing it, which we did this morning again. So, listen, again, it's a good group. They care a lot. They're not happy when we don't play well like we did last night. So we, regardless of the outcome, I expect a full response tomorrow for sure.
I can tell you that in Section 206 last night, it was quite apparent of the massive hole when 55 is not in the lineup as Mark Scheifele was out. Bones was asked on what he's learned about how important Mark Scheifele is to the team and what happens when he's not in the lineup.
Well, I think that's quite obvious that he drives the bus up front. He makes the other players around him better. He's been doing a great job at both ends of the ice. There's games, and you go back to that first Vancouver game that he just took the game right over. So he's capable of doing that, and when he's not there, you definitely notice that. But when he's not there, that's when you need your other players to not try to replace him, but to make sure that they're bringing this best version of themselves. And when Mark's not there and we don't get the best version of the other players, then it looks like it did last night. So you don't replace Mark. But again, the focus has to go on the rest of the players to be the best version of themselves, much like we talked about earlier when we lost KC and we lost guys. So it just didn't happen last night. So regardless if Mark plays tomorrow, we're hoping that response will be from those guys, making sure that they're a lot better.
All right, so here's a little bit more of Rick Bowness. And listen, we've been just talking about the fact that the team looked great one night, ugly the next night, and it has been somewhat inconsistent. The media talked to the coach to speak a little bit more about the recent inconsistency of the Jets.
We've just been inconsistent, so the ramp up will be when we get more consistent. We've had some great. We went into Carolina and won. That's a tough rink to play in, right? Seattle. So it's there. We have to just keep pushing the consistency in. When we have nights like we did last night, nights like we did in Vancouver, you have to address it, but you have to move on quickly and get the expectations and put all the focus on what makes us a very good hockey team. Our principles, our fundamentals of how we play, and we're the best. We're at our best when we commit to team defense and create offense from team defense. When we're in the middle there, we look like we did last night. So we have to get back to that to get the more consistency. That team defense comes first. Everything else will take care of itself after that. So that's what we have to get up to get that consistency back.
All right, and this is just a kind of a little bit of a follow-up to Bones. He was asked on how they got to this point. A team that was so consistent earlier in the season has slipped into this on-off trend.
Every coach in every sport is trying to figure that out. But with this group, we do know what we look like when we're going well, and there's lapses, and this team has always responded after lapses. So we've just got to minimize those lapses, and just all we can do is we have to keep pointing out what's going wrong and what's going well, and keep pushing.
Are you willing to share what's going wrong? Like you didn't last night.
No, I know what's going on, so we'll just keep pushing behind the scenes, man.
Still not going to tell us though what it is.
A valiant effort from our pal Scott Billick. There is one more clip from Bones, and listen, it was sort of lipstick on a pig at the end, making the score look a little bit better than the actual game was. But Mason Appleton continues to build on a career high in points, 30 now on the season. Only one goal off his career high from the 2021 season, with 11 goals now and 30 points on the year. Rick Bowness was asked about the Appleton's offensive season so far, playing alongside Adam Lowry and Nino.
Yeah, like it's good to see because again, that line's been so good for us all year, and you like to see them rewarded with goals. I mean, they know their role, they know their job, and they're very good at it. But yeah, everyone wants to contribute offensively, so it's good for Mason to score a goal, and Adam scored the big goal in Seattle, so they want to be rewarded. Nino scoring, so we. Listen, when you get into this time of the year and you get into the playoffs, you need your third and fourth lines to contribute. It's not always the top lines that are making the difference in the games. In a lot of playoff games, it's that third and fourth lines. You look at Vegas last year, how good and dominant their fourth line was. They did a lot of great things. They started every game, they started every period, and they set the tone. They did a lot of great things. So you don't talk. You talk about Eichel and you talk about all their stars. That fourth line did just as much damage for them, just as much help to win that Stanley Cup. So we need that third and fourth lines to contribute.
All right, so there's bones from today. We'll look forward to hearing from the coach and the rest of the squad tomorrow, getting ready for that finale to the quick 3-game homestand against the Anaheim Ducks. Quick look at the PGA Players Championship. Can tell you Rory McIlroy and Xander Schauffele are at the top of the leaderboard. Canadian Nick Taylor, though, 6 under, 1 shot back. And how about Corey Connors, Remis? 5 under through 7, just 2 off the lead.
Yeah, nice to see. This is the first big tournament of the year. We're already like a month away from the Masters. Has time to start thinking about golf. I know you mentioned the lines yesterday and doing pools for golf. So it's here. I don't know if you've seen Netflix kicked off the golf season as well with their Full Swing show, which my wife is very into, the big star on the course now, Joel Damon, who everyone seems to love. So it's on. I see a number of people in chat mentioning what Adam Hadwin put one into the drink as well, Canadian.
And then threw his club into the drink as well. What a 60-yard throw, apparently.
The club go farther than the ball, or are we in that territory?
I'm not sure. I did not see it. Listen, we will get to the Coolbet lines to finish up the show, but Remo, I know you've been dying to talk about this Pittsburgh Penguins bobblehead scenario that has emerged over the course of the day.
Yeah, well, Pittsburgh Penguins has the #1 story in hockey, tweeting out this morning. Okay, check this tweet out. Where was it? It was first thing this morning. The Penguins announced today that the shipment carrying the Jágr bobbleheads for tonight's game has been stolen en route to Pittsburgh. As a result, the bobbleheads will not be distributed at tonight's game, but will be distributed at a later date. And we all love bobbleheads here, Huss. I've got a couple in my collection. And I mean, Jaromir Jágr is such a legend. They had his number retired earlier this season, and all the jokes coming in. Oh, I'd like to report a robbery. It's a truck full of bobbleheads, and Gritty's popping in, the rival of the Penguins, saying, "Hey, he stole them. He stole them from the Penguins." So everyone's like, "This is a big story. How could a truck full of bobbleheads get stolen?" But I think, Huss, this might just be a publicity stunt. It might be what they call in wrestling a work. Here's this promotional video that they've put out with hashtag JagrWatch. There's the bobblehead right there. So they have one. And there's Jaromir Jágr putting on the glasses, saying, "We're going to go find your friends," to the bobblehead. And he's got a license plate 68 watch. He's doing the salute. So I think that there's some to be continued is on the screen. So I think there's some kind of promotional aspect here to the bobbleheads being quote unquote stolen. It's like those, like when wrestling where the security guards go and remove the guy to the hospital or take him to the quote unquote hospital or something. So
I think you very perfectly described it as a work.
Yes.
That sounds like what it is. All right, we're just past 3. Let's get to a busy night tonight in the National Hockey League. Let's get to the Coolbet lines for our friends over at Coolbet.com. Don't forget, you can use the promo code WST on your first deposit for a 100% bonus up to $200. Basically a pick'em between the Islanders and Sabres. Sabres a very slight home dog or home favorite at -110. Great game between the Panthers and the Hurricanes tonight, and getting plus money on the Panthers. Canes minus 122 faves. Ottawa's a minus 124 favorite in CBUS. The Wings need this game tonight. They've lost 6 in a row, including one to the Coyotes on this stretch. They got to have it tonight. Minus 158. Detroit is a home favorite. Boston minus 211 faves in Montreal. Pittsburgh for that game tonight for the bobblehead. A huge minus 316 favorite against the Sharks. Lightning, a very short minus 112 favorite against the Rangers tonight. Toronto minus 114 faves in Philly. Dallas minus 190 faves at home against the Devils. The Wild, big favorites, minus 281 against the Ducks, who are here tomorrow night. Vegas minus 161 favorites in Calgary against the Flames. And the Kraken minus 175 against the struggling Capitals, who got pumped last night by the Edmonton Oilers. A quick look at the exclusives. We did cook up a partner parlay today, which is boosted from plus 550 to plus 610. Panthers money line, Rangers money line, and Detroit Red Wings money line. So if you like Florida, Detroit, and Rangers to win, we got a nice juicy boost up to plus 610. That's in the Coolbet exclusive. And after the Nasty Chat came through with that plus 850 banger 2 days ago, the fellas in the chat are back at it. We got a Matthews goal, passed up 4 or more shots, and a point for Ryan Hartman. That one is plus 390. You can get and the exclusives as well. And a bunch of games to pay attention to tonight, Reem, and then we're right back at it tomorrow. We'll have Scott Billick join us. We will have Brandon Rowicki check in with our friends at Sport Manitoba, and got to get the man Hacksaw back on the program. We haven't really talked too much about all the crazy moves in the National Football League, but the NFL Notebook will be packed tomorrow before Marbles on the weekend.
Yeah, Hacksaw, of course, in Southern California. He'll have some insight on the Ducks, too. But yeah, a number of big deals, most notable Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta, but Calvin Ridley, who did he sign with the Titans?
He signed yesterday with the Titans.
Yeah, Derrick Henry to the Ravens.
That's the wild one for me. Chris Jones re-signing with the Chiefs.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley to the Eagles was a pretty big one.
Yeah,
the Cowboys not doing anything.
Yeah. Losing a bunch of players. There has been a real, I think in some ways, a bit of a power shift right now, and still waiting to hear what happens with T. Higgins. We'll ask Hacksaw about that. And of course, is Justin Jefferson going to sign a new extension to make him the richest receiver in football and then have to catch passes from Sam Darnold? We will find out. We'll get to all of that tomorrow. But anyways, great show today. Thanks for everyone to hang out with us for the last couple hours. Big thanks to the Strevolution himself, Chris Streveler, who joined us earlier. We needed that jump of energy and positivity into the chat. Ken Wiebe as well. Remis doing a great job getting all of that Rick bonus audio for you today. And other than that, get some rest, folks. Enjoy it. It still is quite nice outside. But if you are under the weather, sleep, fluids, all those things that people are telling me to do, I will follow. And hopefully we'll be feeling better tomorrow and get ready for a big one tomorrow night at Canada Life Center and to kick off the weekend in style. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Thanks to the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. We will see you tomorrow, 1 p.m., right here live on YouTube on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great Thursday night, everybody.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.